Have you ever wondered what Bitcoin is? Well, let's embark on this journey together, shall we? Bitcoin, in simple terms, is a type of digital currency. Now, this isn't like your regular dollars, euros, or yen. This is a currency that exists purely in the digital world. No paper bills, no coins, just codes. What makes Bitcoin special is that it operates independently from a central bank. You see, most currencies we use today are regulated by a country's central bank. But Bitcoin, it dances to its own beat. Born in the year 2009, Bitcoin was introduced to the world by an unknown person, or perhaps even a group, who went by the alias Satoshi Nakamoto. To this day, the true identity or identities of Satoshi Nakamoto remain a mystery. So that's a brief introduction to Bitcoin, but let's dive in a little deeper, shall we? Now, you might be wondering, how does Bitcoin work? Well, it all starts with a technology called blockchain. Picture a chain of blocks, but instead of physical blocks, these are digital ones. Each block contains information about transactions. When a block gets filled up with this information, it's added to the chain, hence blockchain. So, when you or anyone else performs a transaction with Bitcoin, that transaction is packaged with others into a block. These transactions could be anything from buying a cup of coffee online to sending a friend some Bitcoin. Each transaction is then verified by a network of computers around the world, known as miners. These miners are like the auditors of the Bitcoin world. They use powerful computers to solve complex mathematical problems that validate each transaction. Once they have solved the problem, they add the block containing those transactions to the chain of previous blocks. Now, this might sound like a long and complicated process, but it all happens in a matter of minutes. And because all the transactions are recorded on this public ledger, it's almost impossible to forge or alter a transaction without it being noticed. What's even more amazing is that the entire process is decentralized. What does that mean? Well, there's no central authority, like a bank or government, controlling Bitcoin. Instead, control is distributed among all users, which means you have as much say in the system as anyone else. Also, it's worth noting that the blockchain isn't just for Bitcoin. It's a versatile technology that's being used in many other fields, from supply chain management to securing medical records, but it's Bitcoin that has really brought it into the spotlight. So, in a nutshell, when you're using Bitcoin, you're participating in a vast global network that operates on a technology called blockchain. This technology records every transaction on a public ledger, validates them, and keeps everything secure and transparent. So, the technology behind Bitcoin is quite revolutionary, isn't it? Now let's discuss a common question. Why is Bitcoin valuable? To understand the value of Bitcoin, it's essential to consider its unique features. One of the key factors that give Bitcoin its value is its limited supply. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. This scarcity is hard-coded into the Bitcoin network and is similar to how gold reserves are limited. This scarcity creates a sense of value as there is a finite amount to be mined or acquired. Another factor is its decentralization. Unlike traditional currencies, which are controlled by central banks, Bitcoin operates on a decentralized network of computers. This means no single entity has control over it. This decentralization offers a level of freedom and anonymity that traditional currencies just can't match. It's like having your personal bank immune to government control. Bitcoin's potential for quick and cheap transactions also contributes to its value. With Bitcoin, you can send money across the globe in minutes, at a fraction of the cost of traditional banking or money transfer services. This makes Bitcoin particularly valuable in countries with unstable currencies or expensive banking services. Lastly, like any other commodity or currency, Bitcoin's value is heavily influenced by supply and demand. If more people want to buy Bitcoin than sell it, the price goes up. If more people want to sell than buy, the price goes down. The public's perception of Bitcoin's value affects its price. This is why we see such volatility in Bitcoin's price. The market is constantly reassessing what Bitcoin is worth based on a multitude of factors. But it's important to remember that just as these factors can drive up the price of Bitcoin, they can also cause it to drop. Bitcoin's value is not guaranteed, and like any investment, it carries risks. So, the value of Bitcoin really comes from its unique features and the demand from the market. All right, so how do you get Bitcoins? Let's dive into that. There are two main ways to acquire Bitcoins. You can buy them or you can mine them. Let's start with buying Bitcoins. This is the easiest way to get your hands on some. You do this through what's known as a Bitcoin exchange. There are many exchanges out there, including big names like Coinbase and Binance. These platforms allow you to exchange your traditional currency, like dollars or euros, for Bitcoins. It's a bit like getting foreign currency for a holiday, only this time you're buying digital currency. You will need to set up an account, verify your identity, and then you can start buying. But buying isn't the only way to get Bitcoins. The second method is a bit more complex, and it's called mining. Bitcoin mining isn't about pickaxes and hard hats, but rather powerful computers. These computers perform complex calculations to add new transactions to the blockchain, which is the underlying technology of Bitcoin. When a computer successfully adds a block of transactions to the blockchain, new Bitcoins are created and awarded to the miner. This is how new Bitcoins come into existence. But be warned, Bitcoin mining takes a lot of power and processing capacity, so it's not something you can do on your average home computer. There's a third way of getting Bitcoins too, and that's to accept them as payment for goods or services. If you run a business, you could consider accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment. This way, every time a customer pays with Bitcoin, you're adding to your Bitcoin stash. To sum it up, you can buy Bitcoins on an exchange, mine them if you have the resources, or accept them as payment. Each method has its own pros and cons, so you'll need to decide which is the best fit for you. So, those are the primary ways to get your hands on some Bitcoins. However, it's important to be aware that there are risks associated with Bitcoin. Like any investment, Bitcoin has its fair share of uncertainties. One of the most prominent risks is its notorious volatility. The price of Bitcoin can swing wildly in a matter of hours, sometimes even minutes. This means that the value of your investment can fluctuate drastically, and it's entirely possible to experience significant financial loss. Bitcoin's volatility is due to a variety of factors. Market sentiment, geopolitical events, technological changes, and even social media influence can all impact Bitcoin's price. Because of this, investing in Bitcoin can be a bit like riding a roller coaster, exciting, but also potentially stomach-churning. Another risk is the lack of consumer protections. Unlike traditional banking systems, if your Bitcoin is lost or stolen, there's no institution to turn to for recourse. Bitcoin operates on a system of digital wallets and private keys. If you lose your private keys, or if they're stolen by a hacker, your Bitcoin is essentially gone forever. There's no "forgot my password" option to save you here. And speaking of hackers, the digital nature of Bitcoin makes it a prime target for cyber criminals. Additionally, the regulatory environment surrounding Bitcoin is still evolving. Changes in regulations can have significant impacts on Bitcoin's value and its acceptability as a form of payment. Now, this isn't to say that you should avoid Bitcoin entirely. Many investors have found success and even made fortunes with it. However, it's crucial that you do your own research and consider your risk tolerance before diving in. Think about your financial goals, your ability to absorb potential losses, and how much uncertainty you're comfortable with. Investing in Bitcoin, like any investment, should be a calculated decision, not a leap of faith. It's important to understand what you're getting into and to be prepared for both the potential gains and the potential losses. So while Bitcoin has its advantages, it's crucial to be aware of the risks. So, that's a beginner's guide to understanding Bitcoin. Let's have a quick recap. We started by defining Bitcoin as a digital currency, a new form of money that exists solely online. We then delved into the basics of how it works, discussing its underlying technology, blockchain, which allows for secure, decentralized transactions. We talked about why Bitcoin holds value, from its scarcity to the trust it engenders in a system free from traditional banking controls. Then we walked through how to obtain Bitcoins, either by buying them on an exchange or mining them. Lastly, we confronted the risks associated with Bitcoin, from its volatility to the potential for loss if your digital wallet is compromised. Each of these points is a critical piece of the Bitcoin puzzle. Keep exploring, keep learning, and who knows, maybe Bitcoin could be a part of your financial future.